emotions do you feel?
I'm going to close this chat window out because the turtle's making me sad. It never gets flipped.
It will never get flipped. It's just eternally struggling,
Oh no.
like all
It's
of our
still
lives.
It's still there. Okay. All right. Well, Seth, you still want to do the intro?
Welcome to That's Effing Weird. Today we have a very interesting fishbowl. What? What?
I don't know.
Keep going. Sorry.
I'm gonna leave that in probably.
There's no guess. Sure, just which is good.
I'm
Just
ready
get
to go.
right-
I'm always ready.
I'm sorry.
We've all had to do this.
You inhaled. I heard that go into your lungs.
Sorry.
That's effing weird. Today we have a very important fishbowl. It's going to be a different one, a little bit of a twist of what we normally do. It's going to be a movie category one. Now, me personally, I don't know what Alex has loaded up on the spin wheel, but I know it's movie related. Alex, could you elaborate?
Yes. So a couple of the movies that we have on here, we were talking a little bit about the pre-show. Clark and Seth were talking. I plopped them in there. They didn't know it. Random. There's no genre that we're excluding, including, anything like that. Just anything under the sun is in here. Now, granted, there are about 15 different movies that I put on here. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Some ranging from, drama to horror and everything in between. So with that being said, we'll spin the wheel. We'll see what it lands on. And the first one we have is the movie Jeepers Creepers.
Oh.
I don't know how you guys want to tackle this. If we just want to give our 2 cents and review it, or if you want to talk about a little bit about the history of the movie, anything. How do you guys want to do this?
Clark has to take it away. I actually know very little about that movie. I've seen it once a long time ago.
So I cannot attest to the real life version. This is actually based on a true story, technically.
Yep.
It obviously is elaborated on a real story, but there was an old couple, from what I remember, that were traveling down the road, and I guess were accosted by this like leathery winged kind of beast thing, or whatever. I think that's the real story of it. And maybe Alex will fill this in, but I'll go with the movie plot real quick because I can do that better. In the movie, you have Justin Long, young Justin Long, way before he was real famous. And I think it's Stacey Carter, I believe I can't remember the
Yeah, I'm not sure her name.
I can't remember the actress's name. But they are basically a brother and sister, and they are traveling to go see like their grandmother or something. It doesn't matter where they're going, but they get trailed by this like creepy old truck, and it's like a creepy old like wrecker truck, and they kind of get into a road rage incident with it, and they let it pass. And then as they are pulling up, they see this truck again pull off to the side of the road and dumping a body into like some kind of pit thing. And Justin Long's character is all like, "Did you just see that? Oh my God, we need to go back and see." Which, by the way, never do that. Just don't do that, guys. It's a bad idea. So just call the cops. And yeah, so that's like the basis of the movie, and it's a creature that comes out to harvest like every like certain cycle is what the horror movie premise is. And if they had just left it alone, they would have been fine. But it comes out to hunt them because they saw it. And that's kind of the premise of the first Jeepers Creepers movie. If you see the sequels, it gets a little wilder. I personally like the second one with the school bus.
Oh yeah.
I personally like that movie. I think it's actually very fun. But the first one, yeah, will always have like a warm place in my heart as far as horror movies because it's like uh, it's very urban legend esque, and it really elaborates on that. Now, the real story, like I said, I knew it was an old couple that had like a similar incident, but Alex, do you know any more about it? I don't know if you've studied more about it. So,
Yep. So it's actually, if you've watched the old, that's that's effing weird, Unsolved Mysteries. They do an episode specifically dedicated to this. It is, and they uh do this in the newest Jeepers Creepers movie, Jeepers Creepers 4. But it's an older couple that are on the highway, right? And a van kind of does exactly the same thing that they do in the actual creature thing does in the movie, where this this person in a van starts tailgating them, starts like weaving in and out, harassing them, and then it takes off. The old couple, a couple miles down the road, sees this van, and exactly like in the movie, they see the person from the van dumping a body off to the side. Lo and behold, cops come check. It was This guy was dumping his wife off into like some sort of field or whatever. So that's just really kind of what the movie's based off of, is like that incident. I'm pretty sure the guy gets caught, but that's kind of like the whole setup, or that's really the only two correlation between the actual real events and the movie, is that van or the truck or whatever just kind of chasing them down, getting road rage, and then passing them, and then the body too. And then that's where like the whole movie and the real life thing kind of split. But it's a good movie. I would agree with you, Clark. The second one is pretty good, but the first one I believe is better. So
I'm gonna watch that tonight.
Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah, I might as well. You guys have stirred my interest, so that'll be my bedtime movie.
I probably watch Jeepers Creepers like once every 6 months. The first one.
Whoa!
I really it's
Wow.
like the original Halloween for me, where it's like I could watch Jeepers Creepers, I could watch Halloween like any time of the day. I think cinematography wise, I think just like the whole part of it where you don't know it's a creature until halfway through the movie. Spoiler alert. Um, I think they're really cool, and then just the lore behind the first one, where it's like, okay, it comes out every 23rd spring, but what is it? Is it a demon? Is it a creature? Like what is it? I think they did that really well in the first one. The second, third, and like even the fourth one I feel like, way off course with the movies. They just keep going down a weirder direction. Yeah, the newest one that they remade on Hulu, I don't suggest watching it. It's pretty bad.
No. Is it like the new Halloween or what was the no Jason? It was the new Jason movie that was.
oh no,
It's
you
it's
think
Am I
that?
getting
worse.
I'm getting my horror guys mixed up.
Friday
Also,
the
What?
13th.
well, they redid a Texas Chainsaw,
That's the one.
one in the
The
corner.
one with the bus on it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's worse than that. This looks like
Oh.
it looks like it's a straight to DVD sci-fi channel
Oh.
movie. Like there's a scene in the newest one where it doesn't make any sense, where it's like it's a boyfriend girlfriend. They're going to like this like Halloween festival type thing, and then for whatever reason she's like trying on different cosplay outfits for him. Like there's like it's like a 2 or 3 minute segment where it's like, does this need to be in here? Like I got it, horror movie, hot chicks, like nakedness, like it goes hand in hand. But you look at the first Jeepers Creepers, none of that was there, and it was a great movie. And it's like if they would have stuck with that formula, it would have been better. But there's so much CGI, they're taking it in weird directions. It doesn't need to be it. Yeah, it's trash. It's trash.
Okay. I won't watch the new one.
Yeah.
no. I
Just
second those.
just
Yeah,
the
the original. I second that. The original is really good and definitely worth a rewatch all the time. So,
yeah.
Yes.
and Justin Long. Actually, let's go ahead and give a shout out to Justin Long. He's been in more horror movies than I realize.
Oh yeah, he's in a ton. He's in a ton.
I didn't think about it. He's in this. He's in Tusk. He's in Drag Me to
Drag Me-
Hell.
Yep.
He's in.
Oh yeah,
he's
that was a
actually,
good one.
So Justin Long has a good bit of like horror cred to him.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's where he kind of like got his start too. Like I don't know if Jeepers Creepers was his first film or whatever,
was
but I
early.
wonder if he has I wonder if he has like that that soft spot in his heart for horror and just, because I believe Tusk was made by
Kevin Smith.
Kevin, thank you. Yep. So who's in the horror realm and comic book world. So yeah.
Wow.
You guys
Tusk
ready for the
was
go ahead.
Tusk was a hard one to watch. That was a surprise for me. I just kind of watched it on a whim and I was like, what did I step into?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was good.
I
I'm
could
ready.
Also, I'm not gonna ruin the fishbowl. We're gonna go to the next movie, but I could talk volumes on Drag Me to Hell. So,
Oh, nice.
but
It
we're
might
gonna
be.
go. Yeah, it might be
in here.
Who knows?
Raimi has a physical comedy to his horror that I really like.
Who?
He adds that twist in, like that one scene in there's several, but that one scene in Drag Me to Hell when I forget, is it the cinder block that falls on the lady's head and the eyes bug out? That was so funny. It's so funny. It's like in Army of Darkness when the catapults like hit the skeletons and all the skeletons are marching around. They're like, "Hey man, where?" And then something hits them in the head and they just collapse. It's just hilarious.
The next movie we're going to be talking about, Mary Poppins.
All right, all right.
Seth, you have like a uh-oh.
You know what's
face.
weird? I get Mary Poppins and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang confused.
How? Only because of Dick Van Dyke?
It's gotta
Probably.
be. Yeah.
And probably because both were seen around roughly the same
Yeah.
12-year-old Seth time frame, and so they're all just kind of muddled together. I just see Dick Van Dyke getting out as like a nutcracker guy and being like, I don't know.
I don't have a lot to like critique, like or criticize or anything on. I watched it. I was a musical theater kid, so absolutely, I've seen Mary Poppins way more times than most people will probably ever watch it. But I don't know. I don't really have anything like Julie Andrews. I prefer her in Sound of Music, but we'll go with Mary Poppins. It's fine. Like
do you think it's a good film? First off,
I think it
From
from a cinematography point, like, and actually what they did from effects and everything. Yeah, I think it's actually a really well done movie, but um, from a musical standpoint, the songs are kind of like, yeah, they're kind of forgettable. They're not great. I mean, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is great, but spoonful of sugar, all that stuff. I don't know. I can't really say it's like memorable. I mean, it's definitely memorable, but uh, I just don't know if it's actually something I can say is like indelible on like my heart as being like a great movie, like some people think.
That's
Uh,
where I'm at. I mean, I can from what I remember and the scenes I've seen since, I can be like, that was a good thing they did, but it's not like something that's important to me. The only complaint I have about Mary Poppins is I have a hard time what the person making that film or the music was thinking in teaching that particular generation of children that a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down when we should really be teaching them that just tough it out. You take something for the medicinal benefits. You don't need sugar to get that down. What does sugar do? It spikes your insulin. You have you I mean, we talk about longevity issues. It's just a bad precedent to set, but
well, I
that's
mean,
about it.
we're also not considering the possibility that Mary Poppins is possibly a Sith Lord because she definitely shuts cabinets with her mind.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Is there I feel like there are you brushing on a real like internet lore thing? Is this because this feels like a thing?
I think people have mentioned it before, something along the lines of her being a psychic or
Okay,
being like a Jedi or something along those lines. Yeah.
because this has Darth's Jar Jar steam feel to it.
But she definitely shuts cabinets with her
Oh
mind.
yeah,
That
she can fly.
I'm just gonna say that would have been amazing had Darth Jar Jar been a thing.
Yes.
That would have oh, I think everyone would have been happy with the new Star Wars trilogy then.
Yeah.
Like everyone would have been happy.
I was watching it every now and then. This pops up in my feed where George Lucas is doing something behind the scenes of the prequel trilogy, and he's just like, he needs to be more rugged and handsome, and just the way he talks about things and the way he directs, and it's just like, yeah, all right, yeah, or I think we went a bit too far on that. It's hilarious. He has such this dry way of talking and interacting with fellow humans while he's directing. It's like he seems like a teddy bear, but underneath all that, he'll cut your throat. Like he's got that vibe. It's weird.
No,
It's like go ahead, Clark.
if you listen to anyone who's been in any movie with him, even like to American Graffiti and stuff like that, like Richard Dreyfuss, great actor. Richard Dreyfuss has gone on record saying like George didn't tell us anything. Like is this when they did American Graffiti, like he didn't tell Ron Howard or Richard Dreyfuss like anything. They both have said like they were just like, was that good? And he was like, yeah, that was a good take. And they were like, should we do it again? Can we do it again? Like, and he was just like,
If you
no,
want.
that was good. That was excellent. And
I
that's
I
like,
love this.
so,
It feels like he's an accidental director that managed to succeed, but he's not that great. He's just kind of impartial. He's
I
an
hope this
impartial
works.
director.
he has great ideas. He's the best Imaginarium ever. Like he has these great ideas and he can build these worlds and he knows how to like monetize it.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But that's like where it ends. That's his
You
whole
have to
thing.
get the rights to the toys.
Like that's really where it ends. Past that, he writes. I mean, he doesn't write good dialogue, and I hate to say that about him because like Star Wars means a lot to me, but he's terrible at writing dialogue, and he made Natalie Portman look bad. I mean, she's so like yeah.
Sand.
I hate sand.
Funny thing, Seth, that you bring up the whole toy thing because in Spaceballs, there's the whole merchandising scene, right? And because they were making fun of Star Wars, they had to, I think, get permission or like something. And George's only thing was you're not allowed to use any toys or anything like that. And if you look at like the cereal box, it's like a Transformers cereal box and like all of this stuff to make it look like Star Wars, but it's not.
Oh,
It's
it's so
crazy.
great.
They
Yeah,
made
he's like, you just can't. Yep.
he made sure to have merchandise in the background, but it wasn't like sell. They actually didn't sell any merchandise, so
That's what it was. That's
yeah.
what it was. Yep. They couldn't sell like anything Spaceball related.
Once they got to like basically in Spaceballs like the Wizard of Oz, which is kind of where they
Yoda.
yeah, it wasn't it's not Yoda, it's I forget what it is.
Yogurt.
Yogurt, yeah. We get there. But like his Wizard of Oz like esque thing is actually a shop and there's like merchandise all around it. They couldn't actually like sell any of the merchandise, but they could put it on screen, and that was the thing that they made sure to do, just to kind of stick it in George Lucas's face.
Who's the guy? Who's the main guy that did all those? He did what?
Oh, Mel Brooks is the one.
Yeah, Mel Brooks. There's an episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee where Jerry goes over to Mel Brooks's friend's apartment where like every Thursday him and Mel Brooks, it's the guy he's in Ocean's 11. He's the old guy in Ocean's 11 is Mel Brooks' friend. And so it's his apartment and it's just like this really stripped down like nothing fancy here apartment, and they're sitting in there with like TV trays and watching like old films and eating sandwiches and like talking about these movies. It's the funniest thing. And Jerry's just in the background like watching it, and Mel Brooks has like food on his face, and he's like, "See that scene back in 1970?" And he like explains the whole thing. It was very charming.
The Gene Wilder, speaking of Mel Brooks, Gene Wilder, when they were making um Young Frankenstein, Gene Wilder really wanted the tap dancing scene. Have you guys seen the movie?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that tap dancing scene, Gene Wilder like what I remember like him Mel Brooks saying that Gene Wilder came over and they were talking about it, and Mel Brooks was like, I don't want it in the film. And Gene Wilder's like, this is why you need to put it in here. And he's like explaining it. And he's like, no. And Gene Wilder started like yelling because he's like, he wanted it in the movie that bad. And then Gene Wilder or Mel Brooks was like, he stopped. He looked at Gene Wilder and was like, okay, we can put it in. And he's like, well, why did you fight me so hard on it? He's like, because I knew that if you really wanted it and you knew it was going to be good, you would fight for it. And he did, and he got it put in there. And it's probably one of the most iconic scenes in there is Gene Wilder and I forgot the actor's name, but the Frankenstein tap dancing.
Oh,
putting it on the Ritz.
He was the dad. He was what dad was he in? What sitcom?
It's the Ramon. It's Ray Romano.
Everybody loves her. Everybody loves Raymond.
Yeah. Everyone. Yes.
Yeah. Every time I look at the monster, I'm like, wait a minute.
So
I feel like he's
here's
gonna yell at his wife over dinner or something.
before we go to the next movie, I'm gonna ask this question. Mel Brooks, what is your favorite Mel Brooks movie? I think this is kind of a litmus test of some like sort. Or it's a pussy
Oh,
movie.
I'm gonna fail. Oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I'm gonna fail.
Go for it. Because I know what mine is 100%. So
I have two. Like they're
I think I only can name two. The ones that we just said.
I'm gonna go
I
ahead and
know
go.
he's involved. Wait, wasn't he in oh, what was it that he was involved with David Lynch? What did he greenlight for David Lynch when he saw Eraserhead?
I don't know.
Because I remember David Lynch being extremely nervous because Mel was going to be there to see the opening show or whatever, and it had to do with a future project, and I want to say it was the fiasco of the whole Dune thing, but I'm not sure.
I don't know if I know what you're talking about.
Because Dune,
it would
David
seem
Lynch's Dune is not
thing.
great.
But I know what mine is. I'll go ahead and say mine. It's Robin Hood Men in Tights. Hands down, the best.
Okay. Seth?
Okay, I'm gonna have to ask if he did this. I think he did do it. The what's his name? Steve Martin, the three Amigos. There we go.
I don't think
Three
Mel Brooks
Amigos.
did Amigos, but that is a good movie.
I thought he didn't direct it or produce it or anything?
I don't think so. I have to look that up.
I thought
He
did. Well,
usually Mel Brooks plays a part in all of his films.
well, that's still going to be my answer.
Even you.
Just there you go. Be different. Be different.
Yeah, I'm not I know a little bit about him, but I don't know a ton, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. Anyway, go ahead. Alex, what is your favorite?
It's I'm gonna have to say Spaceballs is my favorite.
Quality. It's a quality pick.
Yep.
Nice.
A lot of people pick Blazing Saddles. A lot of people pick Young Frankenstein. I don't know. I'm a Robin Hood Men in Tights guy.
I do like that one. I think it's hilarious that Dave Chappelle is in that.
Yes, he is. He is. He's great. Choo.
All right, you guys ready for the next film?
Yes. Yep. I want to wash myself of this. I feel like a failed Clark.
Well, you might be able to redeem yourself with this film. Rocky.
Oh
Ah.
my goodness! What do we
Ugh.
got?
You're punching in these movie areas that I don't wade in. There's so many types of films I wade in, but so far none. But it was a good movie, and I do like Rocky. I like that guy because he was in a bunch of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah, Burgess Meredith. Yep.
Yeah,
He
he's a
was
good actor.
the original Penguin
Yes.
from.
Oh, whoa!
Yep.
I
Didn't
forgot
know
about that.
Adam West.
Yeah.
Adam West Batman. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Am really mad right now because I'm surrounded by a lot of my music equipment and I do not have my Bill Conley guitar here. That's the guy who wrote the Rocky theme, the dun 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 dun.
Really?
Dun. Yeah, I have a 12 string and a 6 string guitar that was given to my dad by him.
Oh,
Holy shit!
They're unfortunately not in this room, so
Are they
that is
within
some
the
American
house?
history.
no, they're not in this house, unfortunately.
Oh, damn!
Yeah. But I have
I was like,
them.
I mean,
I will take pictures of them and put them on the. I'll put them on stuff across the internet, or I'll put them in the, like, yeah.
then we can toss them up on Instagram too. Just big hee hee.
Yeah, but I have guitars that were are from Bill Conley, who wrote the actual. So everyone thinks about Survivor, they think about Eye of the Tiger, which actually didn't come out until Rocky 3. But Bill Conley, the guy that wrote the Rocky theme, I have 2 of his guitars, so that were given to my dad.
That's crazy.
Yep. So
Now, just
listen.
go ahead.
No, and that's it. Now about as far as the movie, obviously my in-laws are all from South Jersey. I go to Philadelphia a lot, do the run up the stairs, see the Rocky Monument all the time. People are always taking pictures out there. The movie itself, actually, I mean, I enjoy it. I like the first. Actually, I like the first movie a lot, but the first movie is so funny. It's very much similar to like a lot of series you see. Like I will compare it to like Alien, and Predator, and Terminator, in the sense that the first movie is much more nuanced and much more dramatic, and then the sequels are more action based and like they kind of lose some of the actual like meaning to them. So I
How
mean,
there's like that montage in every single Rocky movie, like
yeah,
there's something happening and then he has to get ready, and it's like
yeah,
the like the first time he does it, it's iconic, like running up the stairs and doing everything. You don't see people, you know, going inside a barn and doing upside down sit-ups with piles of rocks and everything like that. So
well, that's the thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
like
would agree.
Rocky 4 is like all America and everything. But no, I do really compare it to like some of the sci-fi stuff. Like if you think about it, the first Rocky script is actually a lot more about the guy. Like he's doing stuff for the mob on the side. Like he's
Mhm.
fully getting like getting where he can get paid until he gets actual, a prize fight. And then he actually stands up to the world champion. Nobody thinks he's going to actually be able to do it, and makes a name for himself. And everyone thinks that like Rocky wins in Rocky. Rocky doesn't win in the first Rocky. Spoiler alert. He
Yeah,
to a draw, and so he doesn't win the belt. So,
no,
but
and
he,
that's why they made Rocky 2,
yeah, but he
just
makes
because
it,
of that.
he makes a name for himself. But the
Yep.
script is great in the fact that they didn't know they were going to get a Rocky 2.
Mhm.
They did it that way, and it's meant to be the story of this guy who's just trying to win like kind of respect, and gets his own respect, and then wins the love of Adrian, and that's kind of where it is. And I
Yep.
find that similar to how Alien and Aliens. Alien is a sci-fi horror movie. It wasn't supposed to be an action like blowout and all this stuff and everything. And then you see Aliens, and it's like, oh, guns blazing and lots of creatures and everything like that. Same thing with Terminator. First Terminator is kind of a slow burn sci-fi horror movie where it's like a creature that's just following you and stalking you, and you're just constantly running from it. Terminator 2, action movie. You're on motorcycles and 18 wheelers and shotguns, and people are, oh, twirl the shotgun. 1887, you need to twirl that shotgun and keep shooting. Like
James Cameron getting his hand on both those
I,
movies.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating how in that era of late 70s leading into the 80s, you had these like really great scripts, these really brilliant movies, and then they got made into franchises of action franchises where they got kind of dumbed down. Rambo's kind of the same way too. First Blood, if you want to stick with Stallone, First
That is
Blood is
true.
a First Blood is a deep psychological movie, and then you look at Rambo 2 or Rambo, I guess, because it's just called Rambo at that point. Yeah, and he's just M60,
Yeah.
mowing people down, and it's like that's not what the original movie was about. So
Yeah, it's really cool to see like how like where the movie starts, what it like how it differs from the second one, or where they take that. And I will say like I feel like that's kind of why people hated Prometheus so much, was because it was completely different than the action-packed, you know, aliens, like all the other ones leading up to it. And I think that's just like that's just Ridley Scott though. He's more of a like follow this, there's no action. And that's like I think he said that too, was like that's what it was intended. It wasn't supposed to be an action movie. It's supposed to be like a thriller. And that's kind of what Prometheus kind of is like, where it's like it's not action. You're following a story. You're trying to figure out. You're looking at all the symbolism and everything that's going on around, and you're making up these conclusions in your head, because really Scott, he won't tell you stuff. Like you have to be looking for it. And like how I watch YouTube channels all the time with them depicting and like just taking things out of the movie. Like for instance, in the Alien Covenant, for instance, there is a quick like 2 or 3 second scene where uh both David and that new AI, I forgot his name, are going down a flight of stairs, or it's a different character, doesn't matter. But the dish that was in Prometheus at the very beginning, where the alien or the engineer like drank that stuff, it's on the stairwell going down the stairs. But if you're not paying attention to it and you're not looking for it, you're not going to see it. So
Yeah.
it's like that's the kind of shit that really Scott brings to the table. But we're getting way off topic of Rocky.
No. Well, first off, now you're in the zone that I weighed in. Now we're getting off topic. No, the three things. Prometheus. Okay, first off, Prometheus is exactly where the Alien franchise needed to go. I
Yes.
don't know if you need. I mean, I get it's a monster horror and body horror, but that Prometheus needed to happen. But quickly back to Rocky before I forget it. I remember being, 10 and seeing that film, and the one thing I took away from that movie that kind of like I just kept repeating to myself over and over and over, it was women make your legs weak, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. It was something that like just kept reverberating through my head, my child head, and it bothered me very much. Then I grew up and I was like, oh, okay. But okay, so I'm done with Rocky. But Prometheus and the whole thing with the engineers, the origin of the black goo, which I mean, we could have an entire episode on this because the black goo was something that the engineers discovered, and as their race was evolving realized that they were having reproductive issues as their race evolved, so they were trying to find ways of life extension, etc. And the black goo was basically this um genetic accelerant that any genetic material it came across, it would drastically like reformat it essentially. And they basically were experimenting with it until they had this horrible situation. And that's why in Prometheus you see that temple where they have all of those like cylinders in that room with the heads. And then there's a I believe it's called what was it, it's the xenomorph, and then there's another one, the xenomorph, but there's the alpha version of it, and
Mhm.
it's basically a giant mural that starts rotting when the air touches it.
Yeah.
That whole thing, that was their warning to, that was their remembrance, because they basically tried to make a hybrid that could surrogate children to perpetuate their race. And then anyway, so that is a fun rabbit hole. And then the AI side of it that he goes down, and then Disney robbed us of the third film in that installment. So
That's now we're talking about Disney, but that's what I hate. I hate how Disney owns
I know.
everything
Yeah.
because it's just trash now. It's all trash. And he'll probably be back in a second or
He
two.
probably disagrees with my assessment of Prometheus. He left.
But we won't move on to the next one till Clark gets back. We can just stick with Prometheus. There was a guy the same thing that kind of like breaks down all of the movies and everything like that really well. He was
Mm.
also breaking down Prometheus and how there's like 5 different alternate endings. There's like 2 that were filmed, and then the other 3 were just like on script. And only and what was it? I listened to listen to it, and it was really because in the actual ending how Elizabeth Shaw takes David's head and she's like, oh, like kind of gentle with him and like, hey, like reasons with him, like not reasons, but like, in the alternate ending, I don't think this one was filmed. She's really pissed off at David still. And like David is like kind of like questioning her still, like with like, hey, you said you wanted to meet these guys so bad and now you're calling them things. And she's like, just shut the fuck up. Can you take me to their home planet or not? And she's just like, she's a huge dick to David, which rightfully so. She like David kind of like this kind of threw it all. Like he's the one that made everything go to shit.
Yeah, he's the little snake. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Oh,
you don't want to hate David, but you kind of do,
yeah.
especially with Alien Covenant. But
I admire his ingenuity and busyness, but he's also a dick.
yes, but like you kind of feel bad for him because it's like how Waylon treated him. He was kind of a dick to David. Like you'll never understand like how lucky you really are, David. And they just kind of like treated him as a robot. Like yeah, he called him like his son, but he's like he made him like no, like "Hey, you're different and like you're AI. We made you and everything." So yeah.
Yeah, just the dynamic between both Wayland and Shaw's boyfriend or husband, I forget what he was to her, but
Mhm.
when basically the both of them say the same thing, when the boyfriend says to David, um, uh, when David asks, "Why did you make me?" And he's like, "'Cause we could." He's like, "Imagine how disappointing it would be if your creator said that." And I was
Oh
like, that was good. That was good stuff.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi,
Clark,
Clark.
and any last thoughts on Prometheus and Rocky and all that and everything?
I mean, no, go. I mean, I guess if we want to close it out on Rocky, Rocky's a really kind of good script done by a guy who probably people didn't expect a lot out of, and good for him.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but did Sylvester Stallone did he not write
He
that?
wrote, yeah, he wrote Rocky, so
Yeah,
that was
he
kind of his. He literally had to give his dog away. Wrote the script and then went back and got his dog back.
I'm guessing Seth didn't know that.
No, and that's upsetting.
Yeah,
That's a bond. That's
yeah.
a blood bond. You don't violate.
But
He had to. He went back and got his dog.
Oh, he
He had
yeah.
did.
to.
Okay.
Yeah, like he. That's. I mean, he was at literally rock bottom,
All right.
and
Just
he like
on
literally.
the first gracing the ears. That's a hard thing for me to hear. So
Yeah, it's a hard
didn't mean
thing
to
to hear, but
prejudge.
he literally he almost like is almost like loaning his dog. He was just like, "Hey, take care of my dog.
Oh,
I will come back and we'll give you money to get him back." And that's
oh, I
what he did.
gotcha. Okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
And funny thing is that's even almost like in the movie because
Mhm.
I think Adrian has the dog that he wants, and then she finally like gives Rocky the dog like halfway through the film or something like that. But there is a dog aspect within the film. I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Ready for the next one?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Goonies.
Yeah, Astoria.
Goonies.
Oh my gosh. I
Seth,
met
you
some
don't
of
look
the
like.
most.
I haven't really seen that movie.
We're gonna leave.
I've
We're gonna
seen
walk you
I've
through it.
seen it in installments.
Take my hand, Seth. We're gonna walk you through it.
All right, just walk me through it. I'm all ears.
So it's actually very funny because I met a girl here recently from Astoria.
No
And
way.
yeah, I met her. She was from Astoria, and as soon as I was just like, "Oh, Goonies," and she's like, "I've never seen the movie," and everyone says that to me, and I was like, "Well, you got to see the
How?
movie. There's no
Yeah,
way
how
you
is that
can live.
possible?
There's no way you can be from Astoria, Oregon, and not have seen this movie at this point." So, The Goonies is one of the best treasure hunt movies of all time.
Mhm.
Um, that's the best way to lead into this. I mean, gosh, it's every kid's fantasy. If
Yeah.
you're like, especially me, who's into history and into treasure hunting, like, I mean, it's for me, it's this is my spirit of that stuff and weird. The whole reason I'm here
Just
is
because of the
this kind
Goonies.
of not the Goonies the movie, but the spirit, the wanting. I want the mix of history and the unknown.
Hmm.
That's why I'm here. Is like I like the mix of history, paranormal, the unknown, the weirdness. I like that. And that's what it's kind of Indiana Jones for kids, but it's still adult enough where there's like real danger.
Hmm. Well, it was
And
at a time. I think it was made at a time too where there wasn't the like the kids swear in it, and like I think one of them says to the little fat kid like, "Hey, I got some pictures of your mom naked. You want to see them?" Like that. You don't see that in Disney movies anymore. And Seth, we were just talking about that, like how Disney has ruined
That
everything. Like you
The
don't
Goonies
see
is
that.
Disney?
I'm pretty sure. Like
Oh wow.
it falls with under I think the Disney like umbrella now.
Yeah.
Like at the time, no, it was
Yeah.
made by Steven Spielberg and like
Oh.
his own thing. So
Still, that for
yeah.
then, yeah, that's a huh? That
Hmm.
if I'd have seen that, I don't know. That was rare. I know that was rare.
Yeah. 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 I would agree though. I think it's one of those movies. I always picture this too. Like when you're having you all right in movies when there people are like having a discussion or there's like something going wrong, it'll for instance the movie The Ring, right? The the mom or like the lead character is talking with the mom and she's like, well, can you investigate, can you, this is what you do for a living, and then she goes outside and there's some high school kids and she's like, oh, here, let me light up your cigarette, I remember when I was young too. Oh, what do you guys think about what happened? And then it's just like it just like keeps like it's one thing to lead to another. And granted, it's a movie. That's how movies should flow. But like it's you don't see that in real life. And I think like as a kid in Goonies, you hope for that. You hope to like go upstairs into your attic and find a treasure map. And it's, oh, this is the same town that we're in. Oh, it's down at the lollipop shop. Let's go down there. And it's like all these like things. And I don't know. It's you hope and you want it to be true or for like find something like that in real life, but it doesn't
What's fun about
happen.
it is that have you have the young kids that are all excited about it, and they're the ones that like find it and are determined to go. And then you have the slightly older kids, the ones that are supposed to be watching out for them. Like you have Josh Brolin's character, and then I forget the other two actresses, but the two older girls,
Mhm.
they're like with them, and they're like supposed to be kind of like more adult because they're slightly older. They're like they're slightly older teens, and they should
Yep.
be like reeling them in, but they're like they get involved in it, and they're like, oh my gosh, this might actually be real. So
Mhm.
therefore, they keep following them deeper and deeper into the treasure hunt, and then it becomes a point where it's like their skill set actually becomes helpful because they are one maybe physically older, or one has like the piano skills, stuff like that. Like there's certain things puzzles they come across. It has a Tomb Raider feel to it.
Ooh.
So like, they have to do things like that. So it's like, oh, they all have a place to play. You have Gadget Kid, who is also Short Round in Indiana Jones. So he's
Oh,
got
Dr. Jones.
yeah, he's in there. and then you have like everybody has kind of like a filler place to be in.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just a feel good movie. There's not a lot of those that are like it's like National Treasure, but with kids and a feel good movie. That's the best way to describe the Goonies. I mean, there's nothing to hate about it. You really,
No.
I mean, you can poke
Man, I
holes
feel
in it.
like I missed out on so many treasured moments in my childhood.
And these
And
are all. I
what-
feel like most of the ones that we've covered are classics too.
yeah, I sorry, I skipped the Goonies. I apologize.
All right. Well, we'll spin the wheel. All right. Hopefully, you've seen this movie, Seth. Over the Top.
Oh, we're back to Stallone.
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
for
know
the
this.
love of
I
God,
don't know
you-
this. I'm sorry.
I don't blame him for not knowing this movie because this movie I have a lot of blank spots in this movie, but it definitely was a childhood memory of mine. So
Yes.
I'm gonna go for it. Sylvester Stallone. He's a truck driver and he's an arm wrestler.
Yes.
And he
Yes.
goes into like some kind of arm wrestling championship thing, isn't it? Like what it is that the premise of it?
Yeah.
Like
So
Everything you just
tournament.
said is
It's like
in the poster. There's like a semi truck and him arm wrestling, and yeah, everything you just described.
so I don't know why he's doing it. I don't remember. I have not seen this movie in 30 years. I guarantee you. But all I remember is that he's like I don't know why he's doing it, but he's an arm wrestling championship for some reason, and he's a trucker. That's all I remember.
so I've seen it probably in the last 6 months. I've watched bits and pieces of it. But yeah, it's his mom is so his ex-wife is sick, right? And his son is at like a military academy, never sees Stallone, whatever, and the Stallone is trying to reconnect with him, and then he wants to drive him all the way back to I think it's to see his mom or grandparents, whatever. And in as they're road tripping, he's hitting at like all these dive bars and everything like that, and people are like, "You're gonna be at the arm wrestling champion thing." He's like, "No, I got my son to take care of." Like, "No, I'm not doing that anymore." And the son's like, "Come on, Dad, you got to do it." And he's like, "Well, my truck is kind of shit, so let's go for it." And then he has like the arm wrestling machine inside the cab of his truck. And
Oh,
then
that's great.
he's like using his truck to work out. But yeah, they travel across the country, working out to get to the championship, and then they get there, and then he, obviously wins the truck, gets the kid home, and all this. But I think it's one of the most it's almost like what we had talked about last weekend with the roller derby thing, where it's just like roller derby was so obscure it could have been a thing. It was like they were feeling it out. And that's how arm wrestling was, I think, back in the 80s, where it was like, this is actually kind of badass, but is this gonna stick? Is it not? So
Dude, the
Stallone just
modern arm wrestling, like I didn't know it was a thing, but
Mhm.
every now and then I'll see a picture of a modern arm wrestler, like pro level, and they look like they have a deformity. Like the one arm is hyper developed, like a Hulk
Yeah.
arm, and then the other one's just skinny. It's weird.
It's
It's
like
so weird. They're really into it.
it's like the Skittles commercial. Have you seen that? I
You,
love
you know what?
yellow.
This is at the same level as the slap competitions. The
Oh,
I
the
was think-
like
love
yeah.
watching
in
them.
Russia or
They're
yeah.
ridiculous. It's like
Yep.
those are like brain damage level slaps. Like you
Yes,
could
'cause,
hear it echo.
Yeah, you could the side of their face is just fucked up.
I don't know how those things become like they have to be born from heavy drinking. With this slapping competitions. Like that came out of some bar where dudes just started doing that and it became a thing. It
Yeah.
has to.
Yeah. Over the top though. All right, Seth. Well, you got pretty much all the moves we've talked about. You might
I don't know anything about. Uh I have my
Clark-
childhood box of VHS. Like I can one day do a show and tell, at least for the YouTube channel, of all the things that made Seth, or at least shaped his mind, and I'll just get
That
them all out. And this is
I'm gonna
Balto.
put that as a future topic episode. 3 things that made us who we are today.
Ghost and
I
Mr. Chicken,
I
Balto, Aladdin, then The
that
Matrix.
it doesn't necessarily have to be movie related.
You had that on like a flip card, and you're just like ready to go.
Dude, the problem with the Ghost of Mr. Chicken is it's amazing. It's just it contends with the Reluctant Astronaut. I mean, or the one I always get the name twisted around, How to Frame a Fig. Man, that was a good one about the banking industry back in the 70s and Don Knotts. You know, he uncovers some shenanigans going on in his local bank he works for.
Is that what you were
Man,
thinking about when you were 7?
not that particular aspect. It was just a funny movie at that. But you know, Don Knotts, I have my beef with him a little bit because he ruined past season 4 of the Andy Griffith Show by delving into the one where he was with the animated fish on the boat. That was like his first Disney thing. And then he went to Ghost of Mr. Chicken, which was the height. That was the best. Then The Reluctant Astronaut, second best. And then there's like How to Frame a Fig, The Love God. I mean, there's a whole treasure trove there that this generation knows nothing about of standalone Don Knotts films.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know any of those that you just said.
Yeah, exactly. So now you know. Now who's in the boat?
He's very, very deep
Oh,
into Don Knotts. Very deep
I
into
think
Don Knotts lore
I
at this point. I
I
just
think
want to be
more of
like,
our
"You don't know what you're talking about." And then Don Knotts like, "Well, Andy,
Hey,
Seth,
do you
why are
know
you
how
making
many
so much
modern
money?"
sitcoms are modeled after Andy Griffith? It's one of the greatest American TV shows ever made. They've recently released the whole Blu-ray set. Ignore all the colored ones because if you go to once they turn into the color film, no. I mean, the problem with like there's Gomer and then there's what's his face? Who's Gomer's cousin? Um Okay, never mind. You guys just
I'm not going into the lore of Mayberry right now.
all right, fine. Fine. I'm just
Aunt
ready to go.
Aunt B.
Sh-
He probably
Hey,
knows
there are. Have you
everything.
seen her when she did pinup old black and white pinup photos way back in the day? Yeah, I'll send you guys some footage.
No way. Toss it up on Instagram. I think
Well, I
everyone
gotta
needs to
find
see
it. I'll
his
send
hand-
it to you. You can do whatever you want with it.
All right.
She was she was a firecracker back in the day, back
I
in
think
the
back then they called
1920s.
them, she was a dish. She was a dish. That's what they called them back then.
The what?
She was a dish.
Oh yeah. She was
It's
a
like
dish. Get on the
masturbating in a
trolley.
time machine. All right. Going on to our next film. Now,
By the way, last thing of Over the Top. Over the Top, I'll say it's like junior version of Bloodsport. There we go. Done.
yes. Yes.
It's
Okay.
kind of
Now, Seth, I know you've seen this film. So we will
Do you?
this might yeah, this is I know you have. And this might be like the last one we'll get to because I'm sure we have a lot to say about it, but Saw.
Oh,
interesting one.
We can talk about the franchise, we can talk about just the first one. We can go a lot of different directions about this. I think most of our audience members have seen this movie. I mean, it's everywhere. There's what, 9 different Saw movies now? They're up there. It's either 8 or 9. Because you have
there's a lot.
There's
Well,
six
Miss
entries, and then there's Spiral, and yeah.
Oh yeah,
There's
Spiral was nah. I kind of like heard buzz about it and I was misinformed. I watched it, disappointed.
not to mention video games they made of it too.
what?
Oh whoa. I
There
didn't
are
know that.
PS2 and PS3 games.
No way.
Huh.
I think
gotta
that would
check that
actually be
out.
that would actually be pretty fun. I think to because is it like you are like locked in a room and you have like 2 minutes to like figure
Yeah,
something out?
essentially, it's like the escape room kind of stuff, but it's
Oh,
yeah.
that would be fun. Now, okay, this may be a dumb question, but let's say you guys woke up and you guys were like in the Saw movie. What would your thoughts be? Like, what would it be like? All right, we need to work together. Whatever. Is it like, let's say us three woke up in a room, right? And let's say just simple chain locked to our leg, and then whatever. What would be the first thing going through your head?
I need to know how to position myself if you're the enemy or not. So we have to watch the TV because if we work together, you have to listen to the TV instructions. Otherwise, it's clear you're going to die. So we would have to deduce whether or not we're friends or enemies after the tape plays.
Ooh.
Because like we could cooperate together, and he may not be anticipating that. But if it's like you're all pitted against each other, then it's game on. I'm gonna survive. I'm scrappy.
Really? Are you serious? So hold on one second. Hold on. If let's just say in the tape, it was like, all right, like one of you has to die. If like clearly he says in it, one of you has to die in like 2 minutes for
Guys, I
whatever
love you guys,
contraption.
but like I'm pretty sure my
No
instincts will
way.
kicked in at that point. If I woke up with like barbed wire in my mouth and gouging my hands and I knew this was it, I think that I would I think that I would just I would now is this a scenario where I've got to like
Thanks,
chew
Seth.
something up?
Thanks.
Hey, what you're gonna say I've look, you guys are great. I've never physically met you guys, and I'm just saying that, I kind of like living, and
Oh, that is amazing. Now we know
so
where we stand.
now we know where we stand. If when live at Mammoth Cave, if that tunnel starts flooding, don't look to me for any help.
Hey,
Clark.
this is really weird. I literally lost both of you. I lost both your video.
Well,
I
could
didn't
you
say
hear
anything.
us?
We were just chatting.
When he came back, all I heard was something about Mammoth Cave.
That was wait. So you didn't hear anything about how Seth?
Don't tell him. Don't tell him.
Yeah, I know the truth,
Is
Seth.
he gonna hold my head underwater? Is that what he said?
Don't
Is that what
maybe.
he just
So, Clark, what I was saying was, I don't know if you heard this part, but if all three of us woke up in a room,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I got
and
that. I got that part. But then both of y'all froze up right before and I came back, and all I heard was him say Mammoth Cave. Like
okay,
I'm assuming like you're flooding and drowning or something. So,
well,
but
not necessarily, but we'll all right. This is what we'll do, Clark. Let's hear your answer. Let's compare it to because our audience members know what
This is
Seth
pretty
would
good.
do.
Yeah.
So, Clark, what would you do in the situation, right, where all three of us like woke up in a room, right, and we're watching the TV or the recording, and it's like, hey, one of you has to die for the other
Mhm.
two to live and like to move on and everything like that. Would you stick together? Would you kill one of us? Like, what would be going through your head? What would you do?
Once again, what are the options on the ground? Like what's available to us?
Okay, so I like what I said was like, okay, we all wake up and there's chains on our legs and we're like chained to the wall. That's all we know.
Like Saw 1, basically.
Essentially, yeah.
Basically, but the guy pits us against each other. Like there's only one walking out of the room.
What would you do? Would you
Oh,
work
at that
together?
point, I'd just back up in the corner and cross my arms and see who starves to death first.
Interesting. Interesting.
Somebody is gonna die. I mean, yes, but I mean, at that point, let's see who was hydrated and who is well fed.
You walked into the wrong room, Alex.
Okay.
I mean,
So
literally, that's the safe. Just back up in the corner and see who dies first.
See? Hey,
I
yeah.
I
Now I'm the weird one.
Seth said something kind of similar. He was like, "Well, if it comes down to like one of us is walking out of the room, hey, look, I love you guys, but I'm walking out of that room."
Oh, might be two of us. Who knows?
Um, I
Depends
would.
on how much water I drank
What
that
would
day.
you do, Alex, with all this information now?
Knowing this information now, I would stay as far away from you guys as possible. I'd be like, stop. Look, we can get
Hey,
out of this.
we are not psychopaths. We are actually rejecting our natural instinct to panic.
Yeah. I mean, in I guess like in the situation that I had said, like, all right, we just have chains on our legs, and it's like, okay, one of you has to die. I'd be like, you. That's what they want us. Like, that's what he wants us to do, is to only one of us get out of here. So how can we all three walk out of here? And like, I
But
would,
what if there's an explosive charge on all three of our necks, and if we don't cooperate with one walking out, we all die?
I'd be like, well, you know what? Like, why is my honestly? I'd be like, why is my life more important than your guys's? I'd be like, if you guys want to, I'm not going to play this game, because that's what he wants. He wants you to play the game, and I'd be
That's
like, no,
true.
I'm not doing it.
I'm
And that,
ashamed to say I think my reptilian brain would just default to the cerebellum, and I'd just chew my arm off and get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna happen. Similar to the actual movie. That's all. He
Yeah.
eventually realizes, like,
I
The
this-
twist on that movie, that was when I saw that for the first time, that really like blew me away. I was like, "What?"
oh, you're talking about the very first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which is where this whole conversation started. Yeah. No, that's the thing, is that you are going to unfortunately like act on that reptilian brain, like he said. Like, your body is going to eventually, survival mode is going to kick in, and you're going to do anything you can. And it doesn't mean you're going to lash out at people that you know and things like that, but you're going to start doing stuff, like your body's going to make you do you, whether that be break your legs, break your limbs, break ligaments, everything to get out of that chain, whatever it takes. Like, your body's going to get to a point where you have to survive, because you can't just roll over. Like,
true.
it's inherent in our DNA. You are not just going to roll over.
I think so. I think like it depends like on a lot with like the scenario that you're put in. So, for instance, there were like one of them was like the a bunch of people were on a merry-go-round, or like a I forgot what it's called, but like there's a shotgun, right? And like it's spinning, and it just lands on a random person. And it's like at that point, how are you gonna get out of that? You can't. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's just like, do you accept it? Like, what they started doing was they were starting to talk to the person who could stop it, and just making shit up. Like, one of the girls was like, I'm pregnant. If you kill me, you're killing two people, and yada yada. And it's
Mm,
I don't know. It really is interesting to kind of see like, all right, who the flight or flight instinct, like which one
mhm.
actually kicks in.
Yeah,
So
but being chained down like that and just waiting, like I said, you'll have the coyote instinct where you'll chew your own leg off before you'll let yourself die.
but if
Yeah,
you,
and
I think the thing was well, I think their legs and their arms were chained. So it's like they in that instance, there's nothing you could do. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
and
Like, no matter how hard you tried, but do you think you
well,
could still
you
like
gotta remember
wiggle and
with the Saw movies that we were talking about, that's the thing, they became unwinnable games.
Mhm.
It's part of the series on purpose.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
became unwinnable games because the people were corrupted, and Jigsaw did not agree with what his proteges had started to do. So
That is true.
they were making games that were unwinnable, and that's part of the reason he punished them.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, you're giving it away if people haven't seen it.
oh my gosh, they've been out for how long?
20
Watched,
years now.
Spiral
watched
came out like
20 years,
3 years ago.
and it doesn't have anything to do really too much with it. So,
the
but
the
yeah,
the thing is that if you were put in a situation like what we were talking about, like there's 3 people in a room and one's gonna walk out or you all die. The I feel like the problem is once this scenario starts to play out, you don't know what the other person is thinking despite what they say. So they could be planning their how they're gonna line themselves up to win this situation when they're acting passive or like, you know what, I'm not gonna play your game. You know what I mean? Like
You're
if you took a stand, I would be figuring you're gonna like, I don't know, say all of this and knife me at the last second or something. So like the as the time goes on, like those stages of grief and then acceptance, I feel
Yeah.
like in a survival scenario, your mind would do something similar to where you're like, this isn't happening. And then it's like, okay, what do I do? You're trying to problem solve your way out of it. Then the mistrust starts to roll around and you're like kind of not too sure about each other. And then you'll get to the point where, like you said, you'll do anything. Like the man that the show that was based on the those expeditions that you know the name of, Clark, the Terror, the book, the show, those guys that were in the Arctic trying to find that gap.
yeah,
when
HMS
when
Terror. Yeah,
yeah, when
yeah.
you have a bunch of guys with no food in a scenario, it's quickly becomes a who's dinner. And it sucks. Like I can't, like I know I say it in like all that this is a fun scenario of brainstorming, but man, that show, like I'm a visual person, and that show is crazy. Like it was a really well done uh like mini series, but that was
What's the
so
name of the
brutal.
what's the name of the
The
show?
Terror.
The Terror.
uh
Okay.
and it
Based on the Franklin expedition is
there
what
you
it's
go.
based on.
Yeah.
Okay.
But one of the ships was called the HMS Terror, and oddly enough, it sank because the two ships sank. It was the Erebus and the Terror, and they sank in what is now called Terror Bay, and
Hmm.
it was already called Terror Bay before the HMS Terror sank in it. So it's almost like
Weird.
destiny. It's like destiny that it was meant to do that. And this is another thing too, is they're Inuit people. There are native tribes up there that watch them just traipse along and die. And they like were like, "Hey, we'll help you." And they're like, "Nah, we're good."
Whoa.
And then
Wow.
and then when people yeah, and then when people came up to find like the missing expedition, they're like, "What happened? We don't know what happened to them." And the Inuit people were like, "Hey, we saw them. They just they just
Losing
walked
their
along."
minds going that way.
And literally this was in the 1840s, so the Europeans looked at him and they're like, "Yeah, right."
Oh, yeah.
And it took 100 years. It took till the 1960s where people actually went back and like talked and looked at the records of those Inuit tribes, and they were like, "Yeah, they were here. They died right here. They died
Dude,
right
the
here."
picture the pictures the pictures of them exhuming the bodies recently in those graves are so crazy because the preservation scenario up there is perfect. They bury them, it's like sub-zero, there's little oxygen underneath all of that fine silt that they buried them under. Perfect. And it's like they died a few years ago kind of pictures. It's crazy, but I think the creepiest, other outside of the Donner Party style eating each other, and losing your mind from like lead poisoning, possibly, is the idea that when you get to a certain stage in starvation, your body starts to eat scar tissue from lack of vitamin C and other things, other micronutrients. So
Also,
like,
old wounds open.
yeah, that's that because there was like a guy. Well, in the I won't mess the show up, but there's just like old wounds that just come back from nowhere from like childhood. Like that's crazy. Because you know how you have like scars here and there from different things that have happened, and you just think like in the right scenario, my body would eat that, and then like would just gash open, and I would just leak like a balloon. Disgusting.
Yeah, that's what scurvy does.
Oh.
But also, if you if you still have vitamin C in your body and you don't get scurvy, weirdest thing is like people that do like keto,
Mhm.
when you get into a was it keto?
Ketosis or
Yeah,
something like that.
acidosis or whatever it is. What that does is actually it starts feeding at your muscles first, so you can actually be in like really good shape. And if you're keto, what it's doing is it's actually it's getting your heart muscle, like it's getting all the thickest muscles in your body. So it starts like immediately eating at your heart, lungs, and stuff like that. Like so, it's like you got to be careful with that. You have to have enough like nutrients to make sure you're staving off the fact that your body will start eating its own heart.
We always come back to cannibalism.
Yes,
I have a really great song that we can end this show on. It's called Cannibalism, and I wrote it myself. I'll put it at the end of this. The audience will hear it. Don't worry.
All right, good deal. Well, with that being said, I think that wraps up the movie Fishbowl. We still have a ton of topics or a ton on here. I'll save this one for if the audience, if you liked it, we'll keep it going. But yeah, I think that wraps up today's show. Do you guys have any last minute thoughts, comments, anything that you want to toss out there?
Nah. Nope.
Yeah.
The only thing that I will say is the t-shirt stuff, the merch and everything like that. We're still working on that. We'll get that up very soon, so you guys can start ordering some stuff if you so choose. We've got a lot of ideas of what we want to put on those shirts and everything. So that about wraps it up for the Fishbowl. So you know what? We don't want stuff that's normal. We want stuff that's effing weird.
Cannibalism, oh cannibalism, cannibalism, cannibalism. You take it away, Sean. I start with the feet, and I go to the ankles. When I get to the chin, I shake 'cause I have the chankles. Oh yeah, cannibalism. Oh yeah. Hey, let's have some fried shankles. Fried shankles. Fry me some shankles, oh Seth. I like some fried shankles. Fry some shankles. Fry me some shankles, oh Seth. Fry me. They're good as the people who make them. You know how I discovered them? How? Through eating people. On islands or just like in the U.S.? I'm just eating people. Even in this like modern day, which everything is nice and prim and proper, you're eating people? People are tasty and people are great. People taste like strawberries and then they taste like steak. Oh, people. Yeah? Oh, people. Well, that's pretty cool. Grandmas are the best, kids are the worst, but moms are just right. How do those Mama Chankles taste? Mama Chankles, Mama Chankles, I love you. Nibbling on Mama's Chankles. Oh, we got Mama's Chankles, Mama's Chankles, nibbling on them Mama Chankles. Oh, they taste good in my belly. Yummy. Mama Chankles. Mama Chankles.